Hey everyone, this is Daniel. This is a quick devlog. I want to talk about this new update 1.3.0. Sorry, the purpose of this update was to mostly to split Acts 3 and 4 of the story campaign into their own DLCs. And those DLCs are out there, but if you have the game right now, you should automatically already have them. That seems to be working fine. But I'm doing that because this is getting me ready to move to a free-to-play model. So I'll talk about that in a second, but here's the details on 1.3. Oh yeah, if you were using the testing branch, I did have this stuff in the testing branch for a little while, and so people were helping me test, and I appreciate that, thank you, but I'm not going to be updating that one anymore, so please switch to the main branch in Steam. Also, this is all just Steam. I don't know what I'm going to do about itch yet. I don't, I'm going to have to figure it out later. So I've made all these changes. They're not going to be relevant to itch for a minute until I can have time to figure out what I'm going to do there. So, gameplay changes. The trial sequences, anybody can play them. You don't have to own all of the DLCs, and that's one of the perks that you're going to get in the free-to-play game. It's a way to try out tracks without having to have purchased the DLCs. The biggest gameplay change, probably, I changed the cornering stat point to grip, and I changed how things behave. So right now, if you go into a sharp corner with no grip, you'll really slide and hit the wall. And so there's also now a sliding sound that you'll hear when that happens. And that just makes the cornering stat didn't really have any like visible or audible kind of effect. It really just made a small difference in the background. It really wasn't very exciting, but now it's a lot more interesting. You know, when you put points into it, you can really see the effect. I made acceleration set points are much more effective. They're actually 4 times as powerful as they were before, so I don't know why they were so weak before, but now when you put a few points into acceleration, you can really hit your top speed much faster, so that's a lot more fun. Rivals have better rubber banding. That is actually implemented. The old rubber banding was just to do with their accuracy hitting notes. But now, when a rival's behind you, they actually gain stats and become faster. And so that allows them to really keep up with you much better. So the game's a lot more interesting because more often you will have rivals just like hanging out right behind you, waiting for you to make a mistake. And then they also, if they get way ahead, they also get reduced stats so that they can't just run off. Because it used to be sometimes a rival would just shoot off super fast. So this keeps rivals a lot closer. The amount of healing for notes is fixed per difficulty. It used to be based on the amount of notes in the track, which is kind of weird. And like some tracks, you would hardly heal at all hitting notes, and it just didn't make sense. So that's a bit better. Now, hard and extreme, you can unlock those by beating trial sequences 1 and 2, which is pretty cool. I guess if someone doesn't want to play the story campaign, whatever, they can just hang out in the arcade and unlock at least hard and extreme. So a bunch of missions got new tracks, and the reason was because I had these, 10? I can't remember how many, 10 tracks I think that were not used in any mission, and in order to make the 2 DLCs for Act 3 and 4 more worth it to buy, I put these tracks into a bunch of those missions. A bunch of these missions already had like repeated. They were just repeats. They were using tracks that they were already used in Acts 1 and 2. So it's a pretty good change. It's actually a little bit different than it was in the testing branch. I changed things around just a little bit more. And do I have... Yeah, I'm gonna talk about... Okay. Improved tracks and environments. For all the Act 1 tracks, I went through, I kind of cleaned up the tracks, I made the environments more interesting. The reason why is because when the game is free to play, I want new players who are just trying the game and checking it out, I want them to have the best experience possible. So I'm trying to like get everything looking nice and feeling much better. So it's worth checking out all of those tracks just to see what has changed. Rig color customization, I added that. I'll talk about what still needs to be fixed. This interface is still kind of busted, so I'll be fixing that later. The new leaderboard UI shows everyone's rig, so you can see this is another thing that needs to be, like, I'm not narrating any of this right now. And the leaderboard doesn't scroll. Like, I made the items bigger, but now there's only 10 on the screen. Eventually, I'm gonna make it so you can scroll through and see like at least 20 entries, or more, probably even. Now, in split screen mode, there's 2 separate loadouts, which is cool. And, let's see. Improved performance. So, the game runs a lot better now. It's a couple of different things, mostly just like messing with thread weights and stuff, just getting things a little more optimized. But I redid how I was doing visibility culling for drawing objects. And I haven't done a devlog for a while. I'm like getting winded. Anyway, the performance is a lot better. I'm actually doing like worse visibility culling method, but it's just faster. So the game just runs so much better. I'm really happy with it, and especially this new automatic draw distance option. It's the new default, and if I strongly suggest trying it. It automatically adjusts the draw distance. When you're playing, you don't notice at all, but in places where the frame rate would normally really drop, it just draws less and it keeps the frame rate. It aims for 60 frames per second, but I guess if you want faster than 60, you can use a different setting. My monitor's 60 frames per second, so I'm not worried about that right now. Objects in the distance, they don't pop in quite as much. They fade in nicely. You don't really notice things popping in anymore. And there's an FPS counter now. You can hit F11 just to toggle it in the game while you're playing the game. Let's see. Editor changes. I updated the README text file. It's a little bit better. It's still not great, but it's updated, and that's what's important. And hopefully, if I change stuff to do with the editor in future, I will actually continue to update that. I don't know. We'll find out. There's this millisecond timing adjustment for samples in the editor. I have not used this yet. It's in there, so we'll see how. It could be buggy. I don't know. That's always my if I haven't used it yet, it's probably buggy. Added a reset track command. Great. That's not exciting. So the most interesting thing to do with editing is the new auto generation stuff. So there's a bunch of things that will now auto generate. And the reason I added most of this stuff was so a lot of the tracks in the workshop, if they have like no environment or no track or whatever, or wonky notes, that these features would automatically just kind of fix them. So if somebody's just going into the workshop, I know you just have a better experience overall without people needing to actually author all this stuff in their tracks. So the first one, zigzag auto generation. What used to happen was that if you authored a track in an audible game mode, it would just put them in like a default location, and it was okay. It wasn't great though. So this option, for any track that was edited in an audible mode, what it does is it automatically just links up the graphics and stuff and positions them. So like the most infamous example was, I think it was Sporty, which had a bunch of zigzags that just kept going off screen to the left, so you couldn't see them. But now they're all like formatted nicely, so you can read them. And that's something you can turn on and off in the song editor if you want. But if I believe if you create a new track in an Audible game mode, this will automatically be on. You don't have to worry about it. Let's see. Track object auto generation. This right now is really basic. I'd like to expand it, but we'll see what happens. By default, there's like no, you get like the lines on the track, which denote like where the column notes are and stuff, but you don't get any actual track, so you're just like floating in space. So this, for any track that doesn't have any models on the track, it will automatically enable and just put a default track model. So that's pretty basic. You can toggle that on and off in the world editor. Track spline auto generation. This is a lot more interesting. This actually, for any, this will turn on automatically for any track that didn't have any edits made to the track. So anything that was just a straight line now has just like a track of just a bunch of basic turns and straightaways and loops and things. It's just randomly generated, so it's nothing fancy, it's just a track. And also I got rid of the default just black environment, so any track that was using that now gets like just a random skybox. Let's see, so that's all the patch notes. I guess you could have just read that yourself, huh? So I want to talk about free-to-play. One thing I didn't know was that I had to post an announcement 1 week prior to requesting that the game get changed to free-to-play, and I didn't know that until I went to actually do the request. So I did the request yesterday, and now I have to wait until, I believe, the 14th, yeah, to actually request, because I have to do this, I have to ask Valve to like do it for me to change to a free-to-play game. And I already talked about some of these remaining issues, scrolling leaderboards, rig customization bugs. Yeah, the UI for the color chooser and stuff is really, it's a bit broken and it doesn't look the way I want it to, so I need to work on that stuff. There are still some issues to do with like steering. You might notice you hear a lot of like sliding while you're steering. It's just things that need to be fixed. And I wanted to, one of the whole purposes for having the trial sequences is that, you know, everyone can get a rating for the top one that they beat. So I kind of want to put that rating next to your entries on the leaderboard. So, or alternatively, maybe I want to, I don't know, I just want to put something there that makes it look cool. Like, oh, you've beat number 8 or whatever. And so everyone can see that when they see your scores. So since I have to wait a whole week to change to free-to-play, what I'm going to try to do is, just for the next week, I really want to clean things up so that when the game is free to play and people play it, they don't have any obvious bugs or just ugly things happening. That's probably what I'm going to focus on until then. I added this new stretch parameter, and what that does, should I show you? Oh, I don't know. I'll try. What that does is so when you're moving faster in the game, there's an effect that happens. I call it speed stretch internally. So let's go into elemental. It stretches the entire world, and that's what generates the effect of moving faster. So that's what that looks like. By default, if I go to the parameter editor,
Parameter 3 stretch value 1
stretch. If I change that 1 into a 2, everything will look like it's moving twice as fast. And of course that's just a graphical effect. It's different from scroll rate, and that's the scroll rate parameter actually affects how fast you are physically moving down the track, where the stretch one just affects the graphics. I have no idea what anyone's gonna do with this, but I just had I guess a wild hair to do that, so I did, and we'll see what people use it for.
1/4.
I just want to talk about the next expansion. I'm getting ideas about what I want to do. And one of the big ideas I had about the theme of it was I thought it would be really cool if in the world there could be like an ocean that you could place somewhere, like a water level, and then the player cars could dive in and out as the track goes through. And I thought that would be a really good idea. I think it would look cool, but also there's lots of cool sound effects and things I could add to make that work. And so I thought, well, I don't even think that would be that hard to do. Well, who knows until I tried to do it, but that would make like a really cool theme for an expansion, to have all these like water-based environments. And I don't know any of the details. There's other features I want to. I don't know. When I think about like what do I want to put into the game, there's always like 100 things that come up, but as usual I can't do everything, so we'll see. I have little idea about like what the story might entail and stuff. So the next big task for me is to gather up all the things I want to do, try to calculate time and cost and all that stuff. And I want to create, I probably said this a dozen times over like probably the last 6 months, but I want to put together some kind of fundraising thing. If people want to contribute and help me develop it, then they can. But I mean, I need to have a really solid list of things that I want to do, and even just putting that together is going to be, I don't want to say like help me build a new expansion and I don't know what it's about yet, So there's a lot of work even just deciding what I want to do. So I think that's it. And I am recording, that's good. So I should also want to be doing stuff like devlogs and things more, because I haven't been doing them. I haven't done a stream for a few weeks. And, just if you want to be a person making stuff, you have to put yourself out there, and I just haven't been doing that. I like to say I've been in the dev cave. I've just been like had my head down for a while and working on this update, and now that that's done, hopefully now I can start making videos and streams and things, and just really getting myself out there. So we'll see how that goes. Anyway, that's it. Hope you liked it, and I'll try to do more videos soon. That's it. Bye.